Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to the first Web3 podcast by Metaverse Simplified. Here we'll bring a lot of entrepreneurs, founders from the Web3 space and talk about the interesting challenges and opportunities these guys are tackling. So, without any further ado, let me introduce Mr. Apurv Kaushal. He co founded Intract. He's from IIT Delhi and he left his job at McKinsey. So, Apur, first question to you. Why did you leave your amazing McKinsey job and started a Web3 startup?
Okay, so I think some prior background to that. So before even joining McKinsey, I was a entrepreneur myself. Even before
Yeah.
that, started my first edtech company in 2018 around career guidance for kids. Unfortunately, couldn't make it. So I ended up joining McKinsey, and it was a great 16 months, working with clients and learning what product strategy go to market. But I think that startup experience just made me realize my heart is in entrepreneurship at the end of the day, and specifically Web3 simply because of the newness of the place and the innovation that's happening. So I've always been a tech nerd. I think I did really background, so nothing new there, and therefore just being able to really apply my entrepreneurship skills to an exciting technology space that is open for a lot of opportunities. That's just super interesting for me. And so that's why around 16 months into the job, when two of my close friends were starting up and talking about Web3, I was like, okay, why not? And therefore I jumped ship. And yeah, Wagmi, I think it's going quite well.
Wow, me. That's great. Would you want to talk a little bit more about your venture? What is Interact? What problems do you solve?
Yeah. So Intract, if I have to describe it in like one sentence, it's basically a platform for founders and product managers of Web3 companies to just better understand their stakeholders, who could be their product users, their token holders, just people lurking in the community. And once you have understood them, also take targeted actions. So a stakeholder data platform with an action layer on top of it. And if I have to talk about the problems, so the problems are twofold, but primarily the idea is that companies want to understand who is in their Discord community or who is their wallet address, but they're unfortunately not able to do so. And what this ends up doing is that being a small team, you're not really able to prioritize your efforts and resources on those 10,000 members who clock up every time you answer whitelist. And therefore, you're not able to see who to sort of, work with and what are their strengths and weaknesses and accordingly leverage that. And similarly, you have a wallet addresses but no social context because you live in the off-chain world while you transact the on-chain world. So therefore, being able to bridge that gap is super important. So what we're solving is this problem where we get the companies to better understand their stakeholders. And some of the prominent use cases of that is NFT projects using our product to build whitelisting criteria, where they look at how many times you've engaged on Discord and also related to your wallet transaction history to see how serious you are over the NFT product, for example. Or DeFi projects, just understanding who is their, richest member and therefore, spending a bit of time trying to build a relationship with them.
So, as an NFT creator, I can understand who my holders are, what is their interaction
Yeah,
level. I get their wallet
yeah,
information as well. I can understand what's in their wallet. And based
yeah,
on that, I can decide how to reward them, whom
yeah,
to whitelist, whom not to whitelist, and
yeah,
form better relations. So this is great. I have a follow-up question on this. I hope you won't mind. Web3
yeah.
is
Go ahead.
around people hiding their data and not giving their data to corporates, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And as I understand, you mix on-chain data and off-chain data. Uh,
yeah,
is it defeating the purpose of a user being in the Web3 space? They don't want
yeah.
you
A
to know
very,
who they are.
very interesting question, right? And the way to look at it is twofold. First of all, around 90% of people in Web3 actually don't believe so much in anonymity as much as in permissionless and being rewarded for what they do.
Okay.
So it's about creating that equitable reward distribution. And by the way, we spoke to a lot of members across Discord, Telegram, Twitter before we started, and they told us that as long as they know where the data is being shared, what's being used for, and they're getting a utility out of it, they're happy to do it. Which is what in Web2 unfortunately doesn't happen because you don't know how one of these bigger giants end up using your data and therefore you get spammed, for example, and you're getting rewarded for sharing your data. So that's one way to look at it. But more importantly, even the existing behavior right now around anonymity is very interesting, guys. So whenever you're doing a whitelist or a airdrop, you ask your members to share their public wallet address anyway, and they do it via a Discord DM or a Twitter DM or a Discord channel, right? So you're anyways sharing this Discord ID is linked to this wallet address. We're just making that process a lot more secure, where you no longer have to worry about someone publicly scraping your address, but through our platform, it becomes much more secure and much more easy to do that. So we're not really creating a new behavior where you're taking away the anonymity from people. We're just enabling people to share those details more securely. And by the way, if you want to be anonymous, there are so many ways you can do it. For
Yeah.
example, you can have multiple wallets that anyways, some of at least the folks you spoke to have, although not a majority of them do. And secondly, through our platform, once you've given the access, at any point in time, you can actually revoke the access as well. So that way, what we're giving you is full ownership of your data that you can then use to sort of convince Web3 projects to take you seriously and then involve you in whatever you want to be involved in. And whenever you want, you can just revoke the access.
So I'll just try and summarize. Users are giving their data, but in turn, they are the ones who might be incentivized and rewarded. So it's in their
Yes.
benefit to allow
Mm.
platforms like you to have their data. Okay.
We don't have the data, right? We just
Okay.
enable the data to be shared with the project that's interacting with them at the end of the day.
But I'm
So
sure
project,
there will be a layer of a lot of data crunching and analytics that you will provide.
yeah, on top of it later on we'll do it. But again, we'll obviously hide the sensitive information whenever we do those analytics, right? Because we also believe power is getting the users the power in their hands to own their data and use it, and on top of that, get rewarded.
Okay. So moving ahead, why did you think that it's an interesting problem to solve? Why this and why not creating another NFT collection or starting a metaverse company?
Yeah. So I think while all of us have been into the Web3 space passively from an investor point of view for a while,
Yeah.
we got into Web3 very seriously quite recently, around 2021, and thinking about what can we do a DeFi project? Can we launch our own NFT collection or start a DAO? But to be honest, we weren't very comfortable working layer of blockchain right now because we weren't sure as to our current skills will make us, successful here. Because in what I have understood is that you need to have the ability to create viral communities, and that is something that we're still learning about. So therefore, may not be the best place to start. DeFi requires a good amount of finance experience, which we already, by the way, have. But more importantly, identifying the white spaces, because a lot of folks have explored the DeFi space very well now over
Yeah.
the last couple of years. So if you want to do something new, something interesting, you have to spend that lot amount of time. Then you might figure something out, right?
Okay.
Top of that, if you look at our backgrounds, so one of our founders is a CRM expert in a way. So basically, he had built and shipped a few CRMs in the past. So he had that background of creating these analytical dashboards. That's essentially very,
Yeah.
important for B2B projects
Definitely.
today.
Yeah.
So that was another comfort area for us. And then finally, I got scammed and spammed quite badly over the last couple of years. And wanted to sort of think about how can we leverage my own, experience of working with data to solve for all of that. In a way, I have to summarize our prior experience of building such products, our prior experience in being able to use data to understand members, that the application layer seemed a little bit risky to begin with in this Web3 rabbit hole, which is like still nurturing. We decided to start with product at the layer of trying to understand members.
Okay. No, that's very interesting, and thank you for answering this question. Now, if you want to talk a little bit more about Intract, where are you guys currently? Was the stage? Are you guys raising funds or have already raised fund? How big are you folks? What's the future of the product, etc.?
Yeah. So I think Interact is been phenomenal since we launched. We launched in May, and we have already have the first design partner 20 global projects using our product, providing us a lot of feedback, and we're learning quite a lot from that. And we have basically learned quite a bit about how NFT projects work, how DAOs use our product, and how even DeFi protocols are finding value. We have some of the bigger gaming projects also showing interest in the product and using it for some interesting use cases. Find players who might be super active on Discord but not really playing those games, and therefore working with them. So that's the place. We have some traction, we are learning, and we are trying to create a better product so that we move towards product market fit in the future.
Okay.
Conceptually, right? In terms of whether we are fundraising, so I think right now we are in the middle of thinking about how to go about it. And in the future, we might go ahead and actually raise funds. But the focus still is to get feedback from our clients and make the product very, very, very good. Where we want to go next, so we're soon launching our own beta cohort of design partners also. We'll onboard the next 30 projects to work with, and then we'll actually start building products even more customized for them at the end of the day. So the way to look at it is that we have 20 projects, we have some sense of the product now, but we want to actually get the next 30 projects also with us so that we can improve our product and build a product that's scalable across different projects. And then from there, we want to make it more product-led growth, which basically means our product is super easy to use, 20 seconds to onboard, by the way. And then you can just use the product, and through that, you can actually start seeing utility. So the idea is to move from traction towards product market fit and then finally scale. And in the middle, somewhere fundraising will happen if it's supposed to.
So that's not a goal, it's a byproduct for you as of now.
Yeah, I mean, fundraising is always a byproduct, right? You want the funds to actually execute a mission.
That's true. And how big is your team currently?
We're a team, three of us are full-time. So me, Samba, Abhishek, we are three co-founders and we are full-time, all IT Delhi. We live together. So I think that way, a great team. And we have 4 more folks working with us part-time, looking at development, looking at growth. I think you've already talked to Kshitij in the past.
Yeah.
So that's how we are currently structured. Although we plan to expand our team quite quickly and get more full-time members.
Okay. So, a lot of members out there. It's like way back in 2016, 17, everybody wanted to get into data analytics and data science. A couple of years back, everybody wanted to be a product manager. Now everybody wants to be in the Web3 space. For our viewers watching, what would you recommend them? Our viewers are mostly between 20 to 30s, engineers. What should they do?
I think so the Web3 rabbit hole is pretty interesting, and couple of advices there. One advice is start small and start with a friend, because it's right now very wide and everyone is still figuring it out. So it gets lonely, it gets scary. And maybe, in the winter that's coming, probably don't start with investment as the most prominent use case, but look at the technology and understand how it can be used for some of the other prominent use cases like a DAO or like, decentralized identifiers, verifiable credentials, the whole Web5 paradigm which Jack Dorsey recently talked about, right? Or soulbound tokens that Vitalik recently spent a paper on. So that's definitely one advice, that start small with a peer and look at non-investment use cases of Web3 also, because those are pretty interesting and pretty nascent. And second advice will be, I think, be ready to learn and relearn and unlearn all the time, because having spent now 6 months in the space, while I've learned quite a lot, I already know some of these things will become basically extinct because the space is so new that going ahead, things will change at a rapid pace and therefore rapid pace basically. And therefore, it's very important for you to have the right expectations about what you were sort of learning, because what you learn today may not be right tomorrow. And therefore, just be in that agile mindset. And above all, I think the internet is a great place, but you need to slightly be more structured. Yeah.
What are the safest things for anybody to learn in this space? Something which won't be obsolete in, let's say, 2 weeks.
I think fairly DeFi is there to stay. So if you have that patience to spend time learning about DeFi projects, about finance and the core technological concept before blockchain, that is definitely going to help. And I also am a big believer of DAOs. I'm not sure whether they will really, be available at scale in a couple of years from now. But I love the concept of how you can work borderless, anonymously with different people and, just contribute towards any mission. So that's something interesting also. But if I have to take a bet on what I am most excited about, it's this concept of decentralized identifier and verifiable credentials. The whole idea of basically creating an identity in the Web3 space that is immutable. Part of it is public, part of it is private, and therefore, that unlocks a lot of use cases like reputation systems, which sort of, reward you for just your interest in the space as well as what you've done in the past. So that's very exciting because I think that's fundamental to Web3 survival. Unless people can build these identities like an Ethereum name service did, it's going to be very difficult for other identities to be unlocked, because you right now have transactions, but very limited layer of trust. And that trust comes from a social context, which if they go on chain, they say the catalyst towards, more people migrating to Web3 at the end of it.
Could you name some decentralized identifier projects that are interesting for you?
Yeah. So I think definitely interesting is proof of interest protocol. Very interesting. Just for your interest in your social media, you essentially get rewarded if you sort of, end up sort of proving that interest. And the way it works is that you basically, if you're a football fan, you let them know I'm a football fan, and any football NFT project reaches out to you. But for that reaching out, they actually give you a reward. So that way your social context is helping you, identify the right projects and DAOs to work with. And then you have a lot of projects on Ceramic Network that are sort of doing something similar. Another that comes to my mind is Kudos, Repute. These projects, one of Repute is a from India itself, and they're
Okay.
doing some very interesting stuff around soulbound tokens
Um,
and reputation. Yeah.
for um, for a lot of our viewers who are still trying to get into Web3 space, they might not know about what a whitelist is, what an airdrop is, and
Mhm.
what is a soulbound token. So, would you quickly take a minute and talk about these three concepts?
Sure. So you said whitelist, airdrop, and soulbound token, right?
Soulbound tokens, yeah.
Yeah. So whitelist is basically a very simple concept, and the concept is that say you are a member into a project and you have done a lot of stuff for them. So you also have an address, and therefore there are 10,000 members, 10,000 addresses. Now, as a project, I have to reward people for helping me out, whether it's in my growth, whether it's just showing interest, or whether it's you want to invest in me. And the way I reward that, I decide from these 10,000 addresses, these 1,000 addresses are essentially the addresses that I want to sort of reward because of their contribution in the past. And this is what a whitelist basically means. So technically speaking, I'm announcing that out of these 10,000 addresses, these 1,000 addresses are going to get an NFT or a reward at a certain point in time in the future. And this
Okay.
is what a whitelist is about. And an airdrop is basically an equivalent of sort of, saying you're getting a discount campaign or, a loyalty campaign in the Web2 world, where basically you're getting rewarded that token in your wallet address. And the way it works is very interesting. You don't even know when your address is like 10,000 tokens dropped in it by different communities. And then you go and look, okay, what's this particular community about? So that's the interesting concept of it. And all of this happens via the blockchain. So therefore it's immutable, it's very trustless, and that sort of creates that comfort around things. I
Is
hope
it
I was able to like answer your
Yeah,
question.
is it safe to say that whitelists lead to airdrops?
Yeah. First you get whitelisted, then those whitelisted addresses get an airdrop. So that is the way it works. Yeah. And soulbound tokens, right? So pretty unless you had a question, Ayush.
No, please go ahead.
No, yeah. So soulbound tokens. The idea is very simple. Right now, whenever you get an NFT or token, anyone can transfer it to someone else. So suppose Ayush, I'm working with you and you have posted this amazing AMA, and I wanted to reward you for it, and I send you a tokens of gratitude via an NFT that says, "Look, I spoke with Ayush on this AMA on so and so date." Now
Yeah.
Ayush can send this to someone else, and that person now has proved that they were the person helping with the AMA, but actually Ayush did it, and therefore in no way this can be linked to Ayush's reputation or my reputation because you can send it to anyone else. Soulbound tokens basically are non-transferable NFTs at the end of the day.
Okay.
So you cannot transfer it to someone else, and therefore the only way to get those tokens is to earn it. And because it's not transferable, it becomes part of your reputation. Just like you cannot really transfer your credit score to someone else.
Yeah.
Similarly, you cannot transfer soulbound tokens, and therefore that becomes your identity.
For example, if tomorrow Coursera or Udemy starts giving NFT for every course you complete, they won't give you a
Yeah,
normal NFT minted on a Polygon. They would
yeah.
give you a
Give you a soulbound token.
soulbound token so that you
Exactly.
cannot trade it. Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, you trade it to someone else, and someone else has that Coursera credential, right? While you did all the work.
Yeah.
Pretty
That's
interesting concept.
pretty interesting. Could you name few of the top NFT collections from India or some projects that you think are really exciting?
I think I love DigiNoor. I love Polycoin.
Okay.
These two, I think all of us know only. Apart from that, there is this one project one of my friend is starting, which is called TIAR, the
Okay.
Indian Art Revolution, working around NFTs for boxing events. So pretty interesting use case. And I'm not sure how many of us really watch boxing, but I think it's definitely gaining some phenomenal traction.
Oh, that's great. I have one. Let's move back to Interact. One last question or one more question. So there's
Nay,
a
go ahead.
crypto winter coming down. Ethereum, Bitcoin is
Yeah.
crashing. We see a lot of noise getting away. People are not trade this, trade that. It's getting peaceful. Do you think your revenue model is affected by Ethereum and Bitcoin going down, or it's independent of the market prices?
So I mean, it cannot be independent because we're in a space that is driven by trust of people,
Yeah.
coming to the space. But yeah, the exposure is lesser because we don't have our own tokens by the way, right? Or we don't have a direct retail use case as of now. We're looking at a B2B use case. We're going to work with companies. So in a way, if our companies that are working with end up losing money or crashing, that does affect our revenue model. But the way I look at the winter is it's to basically separate the real utility projects from the noise. And so it's in a way good in the long term because it will also help us identify the right projects to work with who really have an intrinsic value behind it. And given the fact that our product is about understanding your members and further increasing that intrinsic value, I think our product will sort of, thrive for those projects who really have utility in this bear market that's coming up or the winter that's coming. So yeah, I mean, moderately, we will definitely get affected. Whether the impact is huge or it's like, moderate, that's only time can tell.
Okay. Adding to this, you mentioned that your customers or the projects you have are more B2B. Could you describe an ideal customer persona for Interact?
Yeah. So I think a clarification when I said our projects are B2B, no, we are B2B, right? So we are
Yeah.
catering to
Yeah.
Web3
Yeah.
projects. And now talking about our ideal persona. So the way to look at it is while we're also learning, we are basically looking at B2C tokenized communities as our clients. So
Okay.
any DeFi project, any NFT project, any GameFi project or a DAO, right, that looks at retail users, those are our clients. Because you typically have 10,000, thousands of these users coming in your Discord. Some of them actually becoming your product users, some of them holding your tokens. So at that scale, you cannot manage these understanding of members manually over an Excel because the Excel as a tool, as you know, is great, but has its limitations when it hits scales. And the analytics and everything else also starts making sense once you have a lot of members in your project. So therefore, the B2C focus and now tokenized focus simply because if you don't have a token, then the way you work in the Web3 space is different and the importance of a community on the project is less because a community, if it exists, it's used to drive the token's price, the token's
Yeah.
utility, and everything around that. So therefore, this kind of an understanding. But still early, we can look at NFT projects who have 50,000 members. We have a DeFi project with 80,000 members. We have a DAO that's growing rapidly and has around 20,000 members right now. And I think some of the gaming guilds are very interested in us and we're planning to work with them as well. So that way, very wide. But yeah, a B2C tokenized community with maybe say 5,000 members, 6,000 members is the ideal persona for us. But we're learning and we might,
Okay.
change our understanding as we become more mature.
So Apur, one last question for you. Are you planning to expand and if there are users who are or people who are interested to help you guys out, what should they do? In what capacity can people come and help your project?
So we're open for, to be honest, everything. You can check our website www.interact.buzz, or you can go to our Discord, which is also mentioned on the website. And I think Ayush will be kind enough to put it in the description also below.
Yeah.
So you can check us out there and just reach to us via Discord. Tell us what you're doing, how you want to help us, and we'll take it from there. Because we don't really have very strong defined roles, right? We just want folks who are interested in the Web3 space helping us out. And projects who want to try out our product, they are welcome to join our beta cohort, which starts pretty soon. That's it.
Great, Apur, that's great. We'll link the Discord and your website down there. So folks, please check it out.
Sure.
These are interesting people. I've been talking to a few members from their team and I love their energy and the vibe. So all the best, Apur, and thanks for your time. Hopefully we'll get you
Thanks,
some
Ayush.
other time and have a great conversation again.
Yeah. And I think great stuff, Ayush, with this whole YouTube channel and what you're doing. Hope you guys find success. And yeah, let's see.
Thank you.